Hey, Steve, it's Valentine's Day. You know what that means. I ordered extra Aroxon. I don't know who's going to use it, but, I'm single. Okay, happy Valentine's Day.
Steven, I never have Valentine's Day people.
What was that?
I never have people for Valentine's Day.
People? Like more
Multiple.
than one? Oh.
Any.
Hey.
Zero.
Whoa.
It doesn't matter if it's zero. It doesn't matter if it's never multiple. It's zero.
What about Kitty?
Kitty doesn't count. Kitty loves me anyway.
He goes your way, right?
He loves me anyway. He doesn't drive a Subaru, Steven.
Oh, Jesus.
Did you even get to hear the Aroxon episode?
Oh, I heard that train wreck. What?
Well, the train wreck was very good. It was pre-being sick.
Mm-hmm.
It's not why I got sick, I'm sure.
What?
Aroxon? Maybe Aroxon made me sick. I didn't try it. People were like, did you try it? I was like, why would I try that dumb shit?
Don't knock it till you try it, man.
I will not be wasting money on Aroxon. I don't need Aroxon.
It's so dumb, but let me do a whole podcast about it.
I needed something to talk about, Steven. It was a busy week I think I was prepping to go away, which I did, went on the first big shoot for the bowling show and proceeded to do 2 days and then 3 days in a hotel room because it just fucking knocked me on my ass. I had the chills, fucking fever, couldn't sleep. And then I wanted to stay away from people because I was probably contagious.
So for an update for people, yes, we've both had the flu for quite some time, and we are finally, I'd say, over it at this point.
Well, you're over it. You're more over it. I still have lingering symptoms of shit.
It was brutal, man. I was bedridden for 2 days, and then it was another 2 or 3 days of a lingering headache and, feeling groggy and foggy and just not there. And then the rest of my family got it. The whole house got it. My in-laws got it. And I think I got it the worst, though. I had almost 103-degree fever at one point.
You always get big fevers, though.
Yeah. Yeah, my body does not react well to being sick like that. It wasn't as bad as COVID for me in terms of like a body ache. I had much worse body aches with COVID, but it was definitely bad when it comes to having a severe fever and just feeling like shit in general.
Well, what sucked is I was away, so it's not like I had anybody to help me.
Yes, were you just cooped up in a hotel room for days?
Yeah, so I really didn't have food. Really couldn't eat very much. I dropped 8 pounds. I'm at 174 right now. I'm normally at 181, 182.
So I also lost exactly 8 pounds. I didn't eat for 3 days. I mean, I did. I had like saltine crackers here and there, but that's about it. I lived off of water, ginger ale, and saltine crackers.
Well, what sucks is when I came home, I went and got Walkworks and, the lunch I eat every day, and I couldn't eat it. It just tasted terrible.
I had no appetite, and then anything I did eat, same thing. It just tasted weird.
So I don't understand what's going on with, I just hate my lunches now, which sucks because I loved my lunches before, and I don't know when that's coming back or if something has changed. I know they didn't change something. It just sucks that it's, I strive to stay healthy, work out, do all that stuff, and I'm still working out now, but it's just nothing I could do. It's just one of those things. It hits you, it hits you. There's nothing you can do.
It's very hard to prevent it. I mean, you can take the flu shot, but even that's a gamble.
Well, I mean, if the flu shot would have stopped any of this, it would have been more than happy to take it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, fortunately, we have other people on the shoots that were able to do stuff. I'm not really integral to the shooting aspect of the bowling show, though I am integral to the B-roll, the slow-mo footage. I get good angles. I get
the best.
I do. I get good angles. I do. Nah, man. It's like, no, I'm not your traditional shooter, but I know more about composition than most of these shooters do just from what I do. And it's just one of those things. It's just now I'm doing moving pictures instead of stills.
You were specifically just getting detailed reactionary slow motion shots for the most part.
I'm specifically looking for certain slow-mo, certain reactions where I'm on the players and they do a certain thing. Like, I know what I'm doing. Stuff that the normal guys aren't able to get because they're regular speed and they're shooting different angles. And like it was funny, they're all shooting Sony and I'm there shooting an R1.
Well, speaking of that, how was it shooting with the R1? Did you actually get to shoot anything, or were you sick the entire time?
No, I was good for 2 days. The first 2 days is when I shot, and then it just fucking hit me and I was done.
Anyone else get sick?
No, I don't think so.
Really?
I mean, I know
Maybe
one
it
of
was
our guys
plane?
said he had like respiratory stuff, but other than that, nobody got what I got.
The funny thing for me is I got it from a family friend's house, and it was the same house that I got COVID from last year. So both times, 2 years in a row, I got insanely sick from that house.
Yeah, I must have brought it with me, honestly, because it was like a couple days after I got there. And
I know there's a giant spike in influenza cases right now, so it's going around everywhere. I mean, most of my friends with children have it right now. Type A,
I don't have children, Steven. We've already gone over this for Valentine's Day.
I'm just saying, a lot of kids are getting it from school and bringing it home.
Losers.
And that's how I assume I got it, was from our friends' children who then gave it to us.
I mean, your wife goes to school.
Yeah, but none of her kids got sick or were sick.
Right. Anyway, so that's why we didn't have a show last week, is none of us were capable of doing a show.
I was down for the count. I'm like, I might be fine on Friday, because I came down with the flu. Wednesday morning is when it really hit me hard. Tuesday night, I was finishing the 3512 Nikon video, and I actually messaged you and was like, hey man, I actually feel pretty shitty too. I'm hoping it's just me staying up doing this video, and I've been looking at a screen for 14 hours. Like, it's hopefully just that, but I don't feel great. And then the next morning I was down for the count. That's when I had that 103-degree fever, and it was rough. But I am glad that I could at least finish that video, because it would have been much worse if I had that on my plate too, to finish while being sick.
So hopefully putting sickness to rest at this point. I don't know when I'll be fully 100%. I'm still sweating at night, which is just weird as hell.
I mean, you're looking at what, 2.5 weeks at this point? 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's been since the 29th or 30th or so.
Wow. Yeah. And you went to the doctors too, and they cleared you.
I went to the doctor yesterday, and she checked my balls, and I was just like, she's like,
Cough.
you're fine. Oh, wait, yeah. No, I was checking to see if I had a walking pneumonia or something, and they took blood, and the blood was normal, and then they did a chest x-ray and said everything's clear. So there's just lingering something, especially if I'm still bringing up green shit.
Well, we filmed something on Tuesday, and I was surprised to see you laying on the couch with a blanket. I mean, usually you're up and at 'em and ready to go, and you definitely weren't feeling right. No. I didn't think you were going to make it. I'm like, we got to film like B-roll of you running around outside. It's cold out. You sure you're good?
Yeah, I feel much better today. It's like there's a progression, but at some point it just needs to get back to normal.
For me, that first weekend, day 4 and 5, I kind of felt like that. I would feel good, and then by the end of the day, I'd feel like crap again. And then the next morning, I'd feel good, and then I'd feel shitty again. So every time I thought I was finally there, some kind of headache or something would hit me. I still had like a lingering fever around 99, even 100 degrees at some points. And then come Monday, I was pretty much good to go, and I've been, thankfully, knock on wood, since.
I'm still working out, still getting the training, and I think that's part of the reason for not being able to put weight back on yet is I'm not working out as much. I'm not as intense and getting as hungry and burning the calories, but we'll see. I'm sure I'll put it back on as soon as I feel much better and get back into my normal routines of everyday stuff. So the other day I got pictures from Italy from the printer.
Oh,
it looks like we finally approved printing, and printing has commenced and probably has finished at this point. So I did put those pictures up on the Kickstarter as an update. Now, mind you, the pictures aren't the best pictures. They just took them with their cell phone, and the colors might be slightly off in certain situations, but the printing looks fine. Next, it has to go to binding. I'm not sure how long binding actually takes. That's one of the longer processes, as well as the shipping process. So it's all in process. It's taking time, as usual, and I hope to get it here as soon as possible so I can ship them. Funny, like I got an email from a guy. He's like, I'm thinking about doing a Kickstarter book, and the biggest thing that I don't really know what to do is, how did you find someone to fulfill it? I'm like, you do it yourself.
Yep.
It makes no sense. Like, you could outsource it, but what you'd have to pay to outsource it doesn't make any sense. And if you're going to sign stuff and put rewards in, you have to just do it. You just have to fulfill it yourself.
Well, going back to book 1, the Bernie book, how long did it take you once you got the books to fulfill those initial Kickstarter pre-orders? Would you say like just a weekend, or was it longer than that? Okay,
I had COVID at the time, remember, and I just packed everything.
Yeah.
So I literally packed 500 books in a couple of days myself. I had to sign them. I had to take the plastic wrap off, which I use a fork for, and then I would sign each book. Then I would have to make sure the reward would go in the specific book. Then I would stack them and pack them, and then had to get all the labels printed and then just ship them out.
Yeah, weeks longer than I thought. I mean, imagine if you had double the books. I mean, you're looking at 2 weeks of shipping. That is a long time to fulfill orders.
Well, it also you need to get either UPS or FedEx to come in and grab the books from you.
Yeah.
I got so pissed at UPS. They were like, we have to charge you $8 to schedule a pickup. I'm like, fuckheads. I am shipping $7,000 worth of shipments that I already labeled and stacked and did everything. You're going to charge me $8 to come pick that shit up? Fuck you. I was like, fuck you.
I mean, it beats filling up a car full and driving back and forth to UPS.
Sure, but it's the principle that matters.
I get
dude.
it, yeah.
It's just like, oh, okay, you fucking losers. That pissed me off, Steven. I mean, a lot of shit pisses me off, but that pissed me off a lot.
When do you think you're actually going to get the books?
I don't have answers.
Okay. Months
Don't have
out,
answers.
we're looking.
I mean, I would say at least, I'd say almost a month and a half. Like, it's going to take 6 weeks to ship.
Okay.
You know, ideally, the printing would have been done in December, and it would have been here by the end of January. But yeah, ideally, I think we were supposed to originally do it in November to get everything approved, but it just didn't work.
Yeah, I know you talked about having them in your hands like the first month or two of the new year, which would be now.
My dad just texted me, tested positive for the flu this morning.
Was he with you?
It was with me, but everybody was at the Super Bowl party. And this was small. It was just like my dad, my brother, my sister-in-law, my niece and nephew, and then just like a couple of people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my dad's showing signs. Oh, that's not good. I don't know.
What did he test positive for? Which type?
I don't know, and I don't know where you test for it.
I assume he went to the doctors or urgent care or something.
I don't know.
I only know I had type A, the main flu, the worst kind, because we took Hannah to the pediatrician and they tested her and confirmed that she had influenza type A.
Well, my niece was not feeling well when she came over.
Yeah.
Her brother, they're twins, he had something like the week before, and then she wasn't feeling well, and so my dad was in the car with them on the way back. And
yeah, it's going around, man. It really is. I keep seeing a bunch of news articles and news stories in general about the hospitals being overwhelmed with influenza cases this season.
This fucking sucks, man. Moving on to something photo related. I met this my dad said influenza A.
Yeah.
I met this one girl. They have she's a lawyer, and she did a side gig with her other friend who's a lawyer to do like a contract studio for creatives. So they're trying to do social media, right? And they have like a whopping 345 followers on Instagram, and they keep putting out content after content for like, are you a this and why you need this? I'm like, guys, you're just pissing into the wind at this point.
It's all about
really?
content.
You're not. Thanks, Gary. You're not growing at all. And but they're all about, they're lawyers. So they're like, you need to protect yourself and you need to do this. And then they post something the other day, and it's a picture of, it's from the Grammys. It's Taylor Swift and Sabrina Carpenter, I guess. And it's like, it's a meme. So it says me, and then it says my legally protected business, because she's like kissing her.
Oh.
But I sit here and it's like, and so they wrote, you deserve the inner peace that comes with shedding legal worries. You deserve the confidence that comes from a thriving business built on strong legal foundations. You deserve to fall in love with running your business all over again. Anyway, I sent them a message. I'm like, hey, did you pay for this photo? Did you tag the photographer? You're talking about legal protections, and you're just using a random photo that you found off the internet of these two celebrities that you don't have permission to use.
If it's online, it's free, right?
They didn't reply to me because it's at the bottom. It says, let's get your business legally protected, besties. For business and legal tips and free resources, straight to your inbox, comment join below. I will not. I will not. But they didn't reply to me. I was just like, wait a second. You're sitting here talking about legal protections for your small business, but who's protecting this photographer? This shit just pisses me off, Steven.
Sounds a little hypocritical.
Hypocritical by a little bit. So I just need to stop. You know what? I'm going to stop following them right now. I just, shit that pisses me off. Plus, they're both married.
I mean, I understand posting it, not realizing to either obviously purchase it or credit the photographer. But they didn't even do that, right? They didn't even credit a photographer at all.
No, they just took a meme, and wrote on it and just used an image, which everybody does now. So my dad's calling, Steven. My dad's calling.
Best ringtone.
It is the best ring. Yes, Dad.
Hey.
Yes. Oh.
Are you filming?
Yes, we're recording our podcast as we speak.
I had that feeling. I had that feeling because I can tell from the voice that it has there's a certain lilt in it. I will allow you to go finish your podcast.
So you're sick.
I'll talk to you a little bit later. What's that?
You have the sick. Did you go get tested?
Yeah, I did. That's how I know. I went and got tested.
Crazy.
All right.
Yeah, I went to the Minute Clinic at CVS at 9:30 this morning and tested positive for influenza A.
Did you get anything to take?
Yeah, I have my Theraflu or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Tamiflu.
Yeah, the Tamiflu, because that's it works with this iteration of the flu.
Hopefully because I couldn't take anything because it was too late.
Right. Yeah, because you went away. So.
All right.
Because this is only the second day, so I'm still within the window.
All right. Good luck.
Thanks. I need all the help I can get because sleeping is an absolute nightmare. Okay.
All right.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Well, at least he called it early enough for Tamiflu because you only have those first day or two.
Couple days.
Yeah. To be able to take that.
Well, hopefully that works. I would have liked to have had something.
My thing was, by the time I realized I had it, I was so sick I couldn't even get out of bed. I'm like, I can't even go to the doctors to even attempt to get Tamiflu. And I think it only gets rid of symptoms. You get one less day of symptoms.
Well, I tried taking coldies. That didn't work.
Jared, his answer always, no matter how sick you are, you could be literally shot to death nearly, and he'll be like, oh, just take some coldies, man. You'll be fine, as you have bullet wounds all throughout your body.
Dude, I ordered 4 vials of Aroxon, and it didn't help at all.
It just rock hard.
Not really. I hear it doesn't work.
I was living on Dayquil Severe Vapocool. And that had just a
Did you rub that on your dick?
Yes, it was a little tingly. Felt a little weird, but rock hard. Just rock hard the entire time.
This one time, I was with this doctor girl. She was a doctor. And she broke out this lube, right? Hot and cold. I think they had to take it off the market because your dick might fall off from burning. It would do this. It would start off cold, and then it would get fucking hot. Was this like fucking Ben Gay? You rubbing Ben Gay or Tiger Balm? It wasn't good. It wasn't good at all.
I was heavily medicated for quite some time.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. I just unfollowed those girls because it's just so annoying to watch legal experts. Well, that's what you do when you're not happy with something. You unfollow it so that you don't so it stops pissing you off.
Just ignore
Ignorance
it.
is bliss, man.
Just ignore it, man.
No, I'd unfollow them. Unfollow them. Hypocrites. Fucking hypocrites. Speaking of hypocrites, Cayenne is not a hypocrite. I don't know. I don't know what the transition.
Terrible transition.
Fund a Photographer. We put out the Fund a Photographer video a couple weeks ago with Cayenne, where if you haven't watched it, the gist of it is I met Cayenne a while ago. He's like a 27-year-old photographer, moved here from Seattle, moved to Philly, sports, did a lot of sports in college, was doing some pro stuff, came out here for whatever reason, and he shot Nikon, right? And he was just telling me how his 400-2.8 was like 20 plus years old and on its last legs. Yeah, I think it was, I don't know if it was said 27 years old.
1997, I think he said.
Like that is an old 400.
Yeah.
And yeah, he bought a Z9 and he had like a D5 that he got used. and he had a couple of lenses. But I ran into him one day and he was worried about it. He was just like, I don't know what to do. And I sat there, I was like, and this was at a soccer match before. I was like, I could set you up with an entire Canon kit. He's like, and he wasn't sure because at first he thought that it was like to borrow. And I was like, no, man. And I would set you up with everything. And he was like, let me think about it. And he thought about it and it became a no-brainer.
Well, I remember going back and forth with you when you told me he was going to come in and we were going to give him all this, Canon sports gear, but we were going to basically dumb him down to a 1DX Mark III from a Z9. And my concern was, well, it's kind of going backwards. But then you were like, well, he's most likely going to trade in the Z9 for an R3 at that point. Keep in mind, we filmed this back in July before the R1 even existed.
Yeah, well, that was a concern, but he's like, nah, man, DSLRs are great. I'm still using the DSLR a lot here.
That was the other thing. He was shooting it with a D5 still, right? As his second body.
He had those two bodies. So he was using his DSLR more than the Z9 because of just,
really?
He just felt more comfortable with it. But I told him, you could probably, it's honestly, I know people question like, why would he switch? He already had a Z9. He didn't need all this stuff. And it's like, you have no idea.
Well,
just having a 24-70 and a 70-200 and a 400 that if it breaks, how's he going to do his job? Because there is no inexpensive 400 from Nikon.
We also gave him a 600 f4, which he did not have.
Yeah, so set him up with everything. 8-15 fisheye or whatever, 8-15, 11-24, 24-70, 70-200, 400-2.8, 600 f4, everything you could think of. Gave him a 1DX Mark III, and then he took his Nikon stuff over to Alan's camera and was able to swap most of it and not have to spend any money and ended up with R3, some adapters, and just is in a really great position to shoot now.
And it changed everything.
No, it did. Like he literally was going on to a shoot in somewhere. It was like some tennis thing and he was just going to be the editor, right? But he took his gear with him and someone else was having an issue with something and they sent him out to go fill in. And then they switched him from being an editor to being a shooter because he had the right tools for the job.
Wow.
And that was right after we gave him everything. So, that was, he was definitely worthy of it. And of course,
yeah.
after I do those things, I end up getting 5 billion emails from everybody wanting gear. And I just, look, I get your emails and everybody has a sob story and I get it, but that's not how it operates. I will not just read an email and be like, yeah, you're next. There has to be, that's not how it works.
Well, and I saw a few comments too saying like, he already has gear. Why would you help someone that already has clearly a ton of professional high-end gear, blah, blah, blah. It's like, guys, we can't just give a 400 2.8, a 600 f4, basically $30,000+ worth of lenses, an entire setup to somebody that's never touched a real camera in their life. You think we're going to give that to somebody that's inexperienced? We're very selective with who we give which gear to. And someone like Cayenne, he's someone that really deserves a kit like that. We can't just give Joe Schmo who wants to get into photography $30,000 worth of high-end equipment. So you have to understand that. And there's 99% of all the Fun to Photographer projects, all the gear that we give out, all the people that we helped, we don't film them. They're usually not filmed. It's usually behind the scenes. It's usually casually, giving somebody a lens or a body or something like that. So it's not just the ones that you see online.
No,
there's a lot of behind the scenes. Yeah,
you can't film everything, and whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me when someone bitches and complains that we gave away a bunch of stuff to someone who could use it, especially. Yeah, like you said, I'm not giving 600 f4s to random people. I'm only giving 600 f4s to actual photographers who are pros that never would have one anyway, but it could make their job better. They could do some better things.
We obviously have to be much more selective when we're giving away high-end telephoto lenses like that, or a 500 f4, or
I haven't given away a 500 f4 yet.
Don't you have? We have a bunch of those. Don't you have?
I think I have 10 or 12 of
a
them.
handful of the 800 5.6s too.
I have two 800. They're not two. I have two 800 5.6s that I used last year. I let a professional photographer wanted to shoot baseball from he had a specific project in mind. He asked if he could borrow it. I let him borrow it. I am a resource for a lot of pros who, can't find some of this stuff locally or just know. I've told them that I have this stuff, and if you have an idea, you can come borrow it.
You're a rental house at this point.
For the big stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the crazy thing is we do still have 600 f4 version 3s, 400 2.8 version 3s. I did give one of my buddies who was in Africa with us when he came here. He's going out to shoot a lot of baseball this year, and he's someone who could use a 600. I'm like, take it with you. Just take it with you. That's the type of person that can use that lens, that I'm not just going to give it to some kid.
And the version 3s are essentially the latest lenses from Canon when it comes to those high-end, 400, 600s.
They're 5 years old. They just have the adapter.
There's the
attached.
RF version, but that's all it is really, is a built-in RF adapter on the end of it. Optically, it's exactly the same.
I have a feeling that the next round of Fun to Photographer, I think we are going to be in the R6 and R5 era of cameras at this point. I mean, we already went through 1DX Mark IIIs, so there might be more of those. We already have 5D Mark IVs.
The newest camera is a 1DX Mark III, right? The EOS R came out before the 1DX Mark III, I believe.
Maybe.
Pretty sure that was 2018 and 2019 was the 1DX Mark III. What I'm trying to say is, so we got that latest round of Fun to Photographer gear, a year ago? So early 2024?
Was it? Well, I mean, we were already in this studio, so it's probably less than a year.
You've been in that studio for about 16, 17 months.
Oh, yeah?
I only know that because Hannah was born the same month you moved in.
That's true.
And she's just approaching 17 months old.
No, she's not. She's a year and fucking couple months.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to say 17 months, isn't it?
I don't even know what 17 months is.
It's a year and a half, basically.
Oh, a year and a half.
I mean, a little less than a year and a half, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
But yes, so it's been about a year since you got that gear. If you go back, that's what, 5 years since the 1DX Mark III came out. So we're looking at 5 years. So 2020, I mean, that's R6, R5 territory.
I know.
If we get this another round this year, we might be getting R5, R6.
Could you imagine getting R5, R6s? Could you imagine getting 28 to 70 F2s?
What we need is a lot of RPs. We need a lot of low-end gear. We have so much high-end gear. It's a lot harder to give away high-end gear because you need that real photographer, basically, that experienced photographer to accept that type of gear than some kid that wants to try and learn photography.
On the shelf, you've got 5D Mark IVs. We have a bunch of those, and we have 1DX Mark IIIs, and we have EOS Rs. I've given away all of the lower-end stuff. The problem with the EOS R is we don't have a lot of glass. We only have the inexpensive 24 to 105 kit lens as of now, RF, but...
and I don't think we really have adapters, right?
We don't have adapters. So I do talk to some people. I'm like, look, if you spend $129 because the adapter went up in price, you can get the adapter, and I can then put a 24 to 70 2.8 on there, EF, right? So it's like, it depends. Like, there's certain people, I'm like, if you grab this adapter, I can set you up with all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on. Anyway, Cayenne is still doing well. He traded in all that stuff, his Nikon stuff. He's got his Canon stuff. He's doing great with it, and that's that.
Speaking of Nikon, we also put out another video, the 35 1.2. Nikon beat Canon and Sony to the punch and finally put out their version of the 35 1.2, which is very similar to the Sigma 35 1.2.
Yeah. I took it to a restaurant, photographed a chef with it. I loved it. I mean, I knew I would love a 35.
Beautiful
I love
lens.
35. When you have the time and you have the ability to move around, it is an unbelievable photojournalistic tool.
Environmental portraits are perfection with a lens like that.
Yeah, and it's not so much when I shot 1.2 and then 1.4 and then 1.8, you can sort of see the difference from 1.4 and 1.8. And then there's people who are complaining, a real test would have been using all the other lenses too. That I'm like, yeah, sure.
It's actually what I asked you to do, but we didn't have the 1.8. We only had the 1.4 on us.
Yeah, I didn't have it all. And I was just visually showing the difference from aperture. People are like, but you should do this. I'm like, you know what? You should go fucking do this. If you want to fucking test it out, you go test it out. It's not going to be a difference between, look, you weren't going to go spend 28. How much is the lens?
2,700.
You weren't going to go spend that. Like the majority of the people don't need that lens. But then again, the 35-1.4 is not a pro lens like this is a pro lens. So there's a big difference. But for the majority of people, a 35-1.4 is perfectly fucking fine.
I think the bigger picture, the bigger thing is you're losing more of around a stop of light going from 1.2 to 1.8, and you're losing only about a third of a stop going from 1.2 to 1.4. In terms of like the bokeh and background, it's going to be similar. There's different coatings, different optics, but for the most
quality,
part,
though.
Unless you're crazy pixel peeping, a 35-1.4 will pretty much do the job for a lot less.
Well, it's probably why Canon and both Sony are sticking with 35, the 1.4s right now, is they feel that they wouldn't sell a lot of the other. I really think that, Nikon should have spent their time on a 28 to 70 f2. I think that would be a more versatile, more sought after lens. There's so many pros that reach out to me and go, do you know when they're going to come out with that lens? And I'm like, yeah, they're not.
Also, the 35-1.2 does give a certain type of three-dimensional pop to it compared to a 1.4, especially a non-S version. But yeah, it's a very expensive lens, a very limiting lens. I don't know if I would get that or not. If I was a full Nikon shooter, if I would try and go for that 1.2 trinity of 35, 50, and 85, or if I'd rather have something like you said, a 28 to 70 f2.
I'd end up with both. There's like the running and gunning, and then there's the, when you have the time, that 35 is just beautiful. Just beautiful.
Some of my favorite photos of yours were taken with the Sigma 35-1.2. I mean, I loved when you were shooting with that lens. That was your bread and butter for quite some time until you graduated to the 28 to 70 f2, which at that point you took the versatility over,
It's when I switched from Nikon to Sony, the 35-1.2 was on my lens, on my camera a lot.
Oh yeah.
Now it was tougher when on the road with Bernie, even though I used it at the beginning. I used it quite often, but then I also added the 14 to 24 Sigma and the 24 to 70 Sigma. But that was when I needed the versatility. But when you could do the photojournalistic environmental portraits, the 35-1.2 Sigma was ideal. That AOC photo in the kitchen, there's just a lot of that book. A lot of Bernie book is done with the 35 on the 61 megapixel Sony.
Now, the Sigma is also almost half the price of the Nikon 35-1.2. It's $1,500. It's also discontinued, by the way, for the E mount. They do, for some reason, still sell it for the L mount, but I assume they're going to come out with another DGDN version, or are they just discontinuing it because they didn't sell many? I don't know.
I don't think they have another one. I mean, they should have a new art one.
If you recall, the 35-1.2 Sigma was one of their first DGDN lenses for the E mount.
Yeah.
Instead of just putting an adapter on the old HSM lenses that they used to have for the DSLRs. But now you're looking at a 35-1.2, a 1.4, or a 1.8. You have a lot of options. It's nice that you have those really affordable lenses going from $600 or $700 or $800 with the 1.4s and 1.8s, all the way up to the super high-end 1.2 at $2,800, it looks like. I kind of wish they had something in the middle, give me a 1.4S version. But whatever, it's still nice to have, I guess, cheaper options.
I'm not shooting Nikon anyway.
I don't think this is for you now.
No, I mean, I wish that I had a 35-1.2. I would have it if Canon had one. I would definitely 100% have it.
You seem like you really enjoyed shooting with it too.
Well, yeah, like I said, it gives you're locked into a specific composition. Like I would take a 35 over a 50 any day of the week. I think a 35 is more versatile. I think it gives you more of the environment, and that's why I think it's a great range to have a 35. You have to move your feet, but it gives you a look.
Well, like you said in your roundup in the video for this specific lens, if you're going to pick two 1.2 lenses, 35 and an 85. But I agree, the 50 is kind of not needed when you have something like this more on the wide end, and then 85 for more of a tight portrait.
And then moving on, Nikon announced officially a 28 to 135 PZ gold ring lens, or yellow ring.
I think it finally looks more gold.
You think that's gold or yellow?
I think it's gold.
Don't they wanted us? Wait, didn't they tell us they wanted it to be called yellow?
Yellow, yes. They keep saying yellow. I think it's finally looking more on the gold end again.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Is this a run and gun lens that you would use shooting video?
I don't know if you recall, but when we first started shooting with the Sonys back when like the A7 III first came out.
Yeah, 11 years ago.
No, not that long ago.
That lens is 11 years old.
I was going to say 2017, 2018 is when I was shooting with the A7 III for a little bit. I was using Sony's version of this lens, the 28 to 135 f4, which is almost the same lens. I mean, it also has the PZ rocker. It looks very similar. It's also 95 millimeter filter thread. Like everything is very, very similar. It's almost like, is it the same lens with a new shell? But I liked it because I had that extreme focal range of 28 to 135. I got that powered zoom for that smooth, either quick or slow zoom. And the fact that I didn't have to change lenses. I mean, it was just nice to use. So I really enjoyed using that. But I eventually opted for the 2.8s because I'd be following you around in a lot lower light situations, and I just needed that extra light.
What about now? You got a 24 to 105 2.8 Canon.
I always liked Nikon's 24 to 120. The fact that you get that extra length, and now you're going all the way at the 135, even though you lose 4 degrees on the wide end, 28 versus 24. I like Canon's 24 to 105 mainly because it's a 2.8. You're gaining an extra stop. But if you're doing cinematic work, I mean, you lose out on that built-in PZ rocker. Now, yeah, you can buy that attachment for $1,000 extra, but it's making it a $4,000 lens versus a $2,600 lens for the new Nikon.
The attachment sucks. I finally tried it, and it puts your wrist at the wrong angle. I don't know who designed it.
Well, it's almost like
terrible.
they want you to shoot ENG style, like over the shoulder, like old school broadcast journalism style with that lens, which doesn't really make sense for this day and age hybrid shooting. But then the Nikon's a great option. I mean, they really don't have a lens like this in their arsenal. So I'm all about it. I think it's a good price. I think it looks badass. F4, I don't care about that at all. I typically opt for I used to opt for the 24 to 105 F4 before the 2.8 came out on the Canon side. But yeah, 2.8 versus 4 doesn't really matter to me. If I'm going to be saving, I don't know, I'm not even saving that much. Price difference wise, it's only, $400.
You're not saving that much money.
Yeah.
What else they come out with, which we didn't even get notification of until it actually happened?
Red, who Nikon now owns, announced that they came out with Z-mount versions of their V Raptor X and their Komodo X, which are their two global shutter cameras, their Super 35 and their full frame. That's pretty cool. I don't know if you saw what they look like, but they've also got a gold ring around the mount, which looks pretty badass. I'm all about Nikon implementing the gold ring back into their lineup. I hope they do that on all their future S lenses. I hope they bring back G gold as in the best instead of S, which if you recall initially was silver and then they changed it to superior. Superior. It's not silver. It's not the silver line, even though that's what we called it for the first year or two.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Silver's better than gold, right? What? But I don't know how many people are going to be buying these cameras. They're badass, stellar global shutter cameras, but they're not cheap. The Komodo starts at $7,000 for the brain only. And typically you got to add on all the extra accessories to really make it usable. So you're looking at, closer to $9,000-10,000 for just that brain. And then the V Raptor is just on a whole nother level starting at $30,000.
You're just not seeing a lot of people shooting with those versus shooting with FX, 6s and
yeah, the thing is the hybrid cameras have gotten so damn good that you don't really need badass cameras like this unless you're really truly doing a proper film. But you can even still do that with, like you just said, FX6, FX3. The issue is Nikon doesn't really have that yet. They don't really have their hybrid cinema cameras, although the Z8 and Z9 still have some pretty awesome video-centric features. But this is the beginning of the cinematic universe from Nikon. We'll see how it goes. This is the first Z-mount camera from Red. Now it's not a brand new camera started from scratch. This is just an existing camera slapped on with a Z-mount. But it looks like it's going in a positive direction for Nikon. So paired with that lens, it makes a pretty cool offering.
We'll see what happens. I'm pretty sure that most people didn't want Red. That's why it fell all the way to Nikon, is that these other companies looked and were like, there's nothing here, right? They were already falling by the wayside, and this was like a life raft sent out by Nikon. And for the money, not that much. 80 million was like nothing for the brand.
Yeah.
And if they can do anything positive with it and it helps them and they break even, I mean, that's fine.
I'm more curious of Nikon implementing Red tech in their Nikon cameras, not so much the opposite of Red implementing Nikon stuff into their cameras. So that's what I want to see. I want to see a Z8 Mark II ultimate hybrid camera with Red features. I think that, or a Z6 III, like that next unicorn, that next A7 III that comes out from Nikon. We'll see.
So anyway, transitioning on to a rumor, Canon rumors and Sony Alpha rumors are talking about some new lenses potentially coming shortly for CP+. One is a 400 to 800 internal zooming, and it looked like they had leaked images of it, Sony Alpha rumors. And then the other is like a 16-1.8 or something, which I just don't understand. A 16-1.8. How many people would want that lens?
The only use case for that kind of wide angle lens prime, in my opinion, is like architecture and stuff in landscape. I think it's not wide enough really for astro. I think people would rather have like a 12 or a 14 fast lens for astro. But I don't know. Personally, a 16 doesn't really make sense in my bag. I'd rather have a zoom, but I shoot something completely different than what this target demographic is, what they're going after. Now, the leaked images of this supposed 400 to 800, 6.3 to 8, they're saying it's going to be a G lens, not a GM, so not a G Master, so it's not going to be $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, hopefully. I think they're rumoring it's going to be €29.99, so we're looking at like $3,100 US, which is a lot. Because if you look at their current offering of the 200 to 600, their internal zooming mega zoom lens, it's $1,900. So you're looking at a lot more money when you're just really shifting the range 200 millimeters on the long end. You're still getting, 400 millimeters worth of zoom, but instead of 200 to 600, you're looking at 400 to 800. And my guess is this is their answer to Canon's current 200 to 800. But Canon has 600 millimeters worth of zoom, not 400. So their lens goes a lot.
But it's also not internal zooming. So there's the balance.
Way more budget friendly, way more on the lower end side for sure. It's $1,900. Now, if this is their direct answer and it's more than $1,000 more, that might be a little much. But it seems pretty cool. I mean, a 400 to 800, I don't think Sony offers anything past 600 millimeters, right?
This whole idea of more is better when it comes to these big lenses. It's like,
for birding, I think it's perfect.
Yeah, but if there's atmosphere, you run into major atmosphere issues the longer you go. So when it's hotter, you get the waves.
But usually those birders are like up at the crack of dawn trying to photograph at the ideal, light and atmospheric conditions.
Yeah, but it still happens out at 800. You just get, of course. You just get atmosphere moving through frames. And so it's just not always the best option to have a 4 to 8. We'll have to see if it's real.
The worst, though, is when you have people with like an APS-C body and they're like, I'm going to put a 400 to 800 on it. I'm going to throw a 2X extender on it on top of that. And it's going to be like a 1600 millimeter equivalent. I'm going to crop in on top of that. And then I'm going to finally see that bird from a mile away. And it's going to look like shit.
Well, it's speaking of looking like shit, it's kind of like Nikon and the P1100, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Nikon had the P1000, which was a super mega zoom lens camera that literally houses a cell phone size image sensor with a zoom lens on it that gives you cell phone quality images and video of whatever you're shooting. the quality is garbage.
I mean, this camera is ideal for the boomer that just wants to see a bird from a mile away, just like I was saying, and doesn't care about optics or quality at all.
It's literally binoculars
It's binoculars, yeah.
with a picture taking ability.
Or an advanced camcorder of some sort. I mean, I feel like it's more better for video situations than still photography. I can get away with compressed looking video that zoomed in 3,000% than a still photo.
Yeah.
But when we tried out the P1000, I remember being like pleasantly kind of surprised, like, whoa, I just zoomed in on the moon and it looks pretty cool for $1,000 or whatever it was going for at the time. They're definitely marketing towards a certain demographic of people that just want to zoom in on things. And like you said, it's just a fancy pair of new age binoculars.
Yeah.
The odd part is that it didn't really get updated. I think they added a USB-C port. I think they added like a firework mode.
I just think they realized that there's a market to be had. They already have the shell and they don't have to change very much. They might as well just ramp up production again.
Yeah, but it's a 7+ year old camera. The P1000 came out in what, 2018, I believe?
So the people buying this stuff don't care.
It's a very, very light refresh. But yeah, I guess like you said, the people that are buying this don't care at all.
No. Don't care.
I do remember, though, us both being like kind of pleasantly surprised at using it. Like, oh, it's kind of cool, kind of fun. Something like my dad would love.
So moving on to wrapping this up, I know we've got a few big ass videos in the can.
Oh, yeah.
What are those two?
You have the official R1, I think we're going to call it 6 month later review, and then the R5 Mark II real world review coming out as well. Two massive videos that are probably looking at about 30 minutes runtime each, roughly.
Those are big videos. They're long form reviews. There's so many lenses that we have to, whether we have to or not, but we've got a lot of lenses sitting here that we haven't done reviews of. I guess it's a little more difficult in the winter when it's colder to go find things to really shoot, but there's so much to do still and so little time to do everything. It always feels like, even though we're not on a time crunch by anybody, it's all self-implemented. But yeah, there's some catching up on things.
Oh yeah. I mean, we still have a Z6 III user's guide in the queue waiting to be edited as well. I mean, these are some giant long form videos that essentially turn into evergreen content for us, but they take some time to edit in between our normal photo news fixes, our normal sponsored videos, any other little content that comes along the way. But I'm excited for people to finally see these real world reviews with the R1 and R5 Mark II. Plus, it's on the latest scripted set that we only showcased in our Book 2 video, the promo video for that. So I think we're going to finally start getting some use out of that set. I still personally want to do a giant, studio tour walkthrough, updated version for the new studio. We haven't done that just yet, and I think we're finally ready for the most part. I still need to tweak some things here and there, but I think it's we're ready for a giant updated studio tour.
Well, it'd be good if we were swapping out with Canon the video stuff that we use.
Yep.
Like swapping out R5s now, retiring those, sending those back to Canon in exchange for R5 Mark IIs and full RF kit glass, retiring all the EF stuff. And, we are shooting with Canon here in the studio still, so we would like to replace those. We do have the one R5 Mark II now, but I think we're going to have like 5 or 6 of them at this point when we swap out.
You know what I just bought, by the way, for the first time in years?
A Roxxon?
Correct. Yeah, I used to use it back in the day, but the junk's not just working anymore, so I had to switch it up. No.
You're putting it on the wrong thing, Steven. It doesn't go on your nipples.
No, Dan would use something like that.
That's right, guys. I use a Roxxon for my nipples.
For those that don't know, Dan has nipple piercings.
Yeah, I mentioned it in the photo news fix. We'll see if he puts a picture up.
I can't believe he still has them in. I'm like, Dan, you're like 40 years old and you have nipple piercings. I think it's time to take them out.
No.
Anyway, I bought a TV for the first time. We're finally transitioning our dining room area into a playroom, and I needed a TV of some sort in there, and I didn't want to cheap out, so I ended up getting an OLED TV, my first ever true OLED TV, and it's pretty badass, I will say. For someone that, especially like you, that loves contrast, the black point on that thing is incredible. It's the Samsung S90D. They're not their flagship OLED, but right below that. And the crazy thing is that it's so razor thin. It is thinner than my phone, dude. It is 0.4 inches thin. I almost felt like I was going to break it when I was mounting it.
Yeah.
Oh,
How
yeah.
much did you spend on that?
Not too much for a higher end TV. It was $1,500. So, you look at their flagship model.
They're only $1,500.
Yeah, their flagship OLED is closer to $3,000. Now, this TV has been out for a year and they're about to release their 2025 versions. This is still the 2024. So I think that's also why it's significantly discounted now. I think when it came out, it was like $2,300. But yeah, now it's $1,500. Their quantum LED TV, whatever it was called, the one that doesn't use OLED. QLED, yeah. That one is also $1,500. That's their flagship QLED version. I was like, well, I might as well just get the OLED at that point if it's the same price.
How big did you get? 65?
I got 65 and I was going to go with 75, but that room is only like an 11 by
should have done it
12-foot room, so it's a little weird to be
Bigger's
sitting
better.
8 feet away with 75-inch TV.
Steven, I said 8 feet away from 161.
You're blind. You're totally different than the normal person.
Yeah.
you can't see anything.
Yeah.
You have a 30-inch teleprompter and you look at it from 8 feet away.
Yeah. I'm special.
Also, the 75-inch would have cost me like another $600-700. So I was like, I might as well just get the 65. It's only like half a foot smaller. It's really not that much less of a footprint than the 75-inch at that point. So, but I did notice the last TV I bought in 2018, also a Samsung. It was their higher end QLED at the time for $1,200-1,300, I think. It's significantly faster now. They finally, I think, optimized it for a lot of the apps these days. So it's not really lagging behind. It makes me want to get a new TV now for my other room and an OLED, because the other thing about OLED is just viewing angle. If you're looking at it from the side, 45-degree angle, whatever you want to do, you can view it and there's no loss in contrast pretty much.
Yeah.
So that is a really nice feature with these OLED TVs. But anyway, look at TVs if you guys are looking for one. They've come down significantly in price for an OLED.
They are insane how inexpensive TVs are.
Yeah, because for me, it's either Samsung, Sony, or I think LG makes a pretty solid OLED right now. But those three brands have the top of the line.
I think Samsung, from my cousin who does all the installs, he's just like, Sony doesn't even fucking matter anymore when it comes to TVs.
The Bravias are still pretty solid, but I've always been a Samsung when it comes to TV displays. The funny thing is that Samsung's everything else kind of sucks from them when it comes to like appliances and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But their TVs, obviously, that's what they're really known for.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Let's wrap it up. This is 138, by the way. We skipped a week.
We should be back. I mean, that was the first week we skipped. Ever?
That wasn't a holiday.
Yeah, that wasn't a holiday. I think that might be the first time ever. Because I was very surprised that you didn't end up flying solo again, but I know you were still under the weather.
I wasn't good.
Yeah.
I wasn't good. All right, let's wrap this up. I got nothing to go do, so let's call it a day.
All right, come on, guys. I got a lot of nothing to do, so
I
we
got
got
a lot
it.
of nothing. I don't know what the fuck to do with my life anymore.
Isn't that every day?
Yes, this is every fucking day.
Dude, again, I could tell you a million things to do, and you're gonna be like, I don't feel like doing that.
Is there something that I could do?
You got a whole list of lens reviews to do.
Not
We've
counting
got
lens
12
reviews.
lenses.
I don't want to do those. I'm not going to go shoot a lens right now. Anything else?
Other things, but we can keep that between us.
All right. Well, tell me when we sign off,
Yeah.
because I don't know what we're talking about. All right. I got to go. I'm leaving, Steven.
Have fun doing nothing.
Thank you guys very much for listening. Jared Polin, FrenosPhoto.com. See ya.